Welcome back. Novartis on the cutting edge of healthcare and new drug development. But perhaps most interesting is its push into the marriage of healthcare and technology, specifically biotech. I sat down with the CEO of Novartis, Joseph Jimenez, in a Fox Business Network exclusive to ask him where is the growth at Novartis and what is on the horizon now.
We focus the company on three big divisions that have global scale: pharmaceuticals, eye care, and generics. And now we are right now in the process of launching two potential mega blockbusters, a drug called Entresto for heart failure and a drug called Cosentyx for psoriasis. So we are driving growth both in the developed markets as well as in emerging markets.
Are you still seeing margin pressure in the eye care business? What can you tell us in terms of growth in eye care versus what you're seeing in what looks like a really good pipeline?
Well, if you look at the fundamental demographic trends in eye care, they're very favorable because we've got an aging population. We're going to see increased demand for eye care for the next 10 years. In our Alcon business, we've seen some competitive pressures in intraocular lenses, and we've also seen a little bit of a slowdown in emerging markets. And so, I think once we generate the kind of innovation in that division that we have in the other divisions, we're going to see growth.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because you've been really innovative, and you recently announced a partnership with Google when it comes to eyewear, in particular contact lenses. Tell us what you're trying to do here. Are there actual sensors in the contact lens?
Yeah, we see biology and technology coming together to solve some of the biggest medical problems, and eye care is another example. So we entered into an agreement with Google where we're developing a contact lens that allows your eye to autofocus like a camera. So there are sensors, microprocessors in the lens, and it's a good way to bring technology and biology together. We know a lot about biology. Google knows a lot about technology.
So how does that work? You've got a sensor in the contact lens that's actually telling you about the sugar in your body, your blood sugar, particularly for diabetics as well, right?
Right. There's two technologies. One would be a glucose monitoring lens, and then the second lens that is more of a autofocus lens. The sensor actually looks at where your eye is focusing. So if you're looking down reading, it will allow the lens to correct the vision. And then if you look up and look at a distance, in a millisecond, it allows your eye to see at a distance.
Absolutely fascinating. Really, really important stuff here. Let me ask you about the GSK assets, the integration, particularly the oncology assets. Where are you in terms of integration, and where do those assets fit in the overall picture of growth at Novartis?
Yeah, in March, we closed a deal with GSK where we acquired their oncology assets for $16 billion. What that has done is that has strengthened our position in oncology. We're number 2. So right now we are in the position of integrating the GSK assets into our business in 60 countries around the world.
Where are we in the fight against cancer, by the way?
We're making great progress. Data is allowing us to manage disease like we have never been able to before, just in terms of targeting. So deep sequencing of the human genome has enabled us to look at different tumors and look at genetic mutations that are implicated in different tumor types, opening up new targets for Novartis. So it's really a great time for innovative medicine.
It's pretty extraordinary, actually, when you look at where we are in terms of what's in the pipeline for cancer as well.
Yes.
And you mentioned the heart failure treatment. You didn't mention the lung cancer treatment. I want to ask you about that as well. But in terms of the big blockbuster drugs in the pipeline, does that apply also to emerging markets? I mean, is this a global story when you look at what's in the pipeline?
It does. This is a global story because we're already seeing in some of those emerging markets the willingness to pay for drugs if they offer a material benefit over existing drugs and if they extend life. So that's key to our industry. If we can come up with innovative new drugs that are a step change better than what's out there, you're going to be okay.
Do you worry that the firestorm over prices for pharmaceuticals, prices for drugs, it's going to create even more regulation, even higher barriers for Novartis and for the entire industry as a result of what's going on? How do you, grow in the face of what could be, heavy-handed governments?
I think it could if we don't address it. And I think it's up to the pharmaceutical industry to look at the value that each of our drugs, our new drugs, is delivering to patients and to price it responsibly. Our new heart failure drug is a great example of that, where independent bodies have looked at the price that we set for our heart failure drug, and they have said, number one, it is cost effective, and number two, that it is going to be something that helps the entire healthcare system.
Interesting growth story there. My thanks to Novartis CEO Joe Jimenez.